Let's look at the deployment of our application as we have it so far. We've been actually relying on Eclipse and JBoss to do an awful lot of work for us. As we publish our application from Eclipse, our application is actually being placed in, our ear has been placed in the deploy directory under JBoss. So under JBoss, under server, under default, under deploy, we actually have an application that is being deployed. This is part of the JBoss environment. To prove this without Eclipse running, if I were to, in fact, just start up JBoss and wait for it to start, and it shouldn't take very long because JBoss is a very small footprint, small resource application server. We're looking at the same server console that we have been looking at inside of Eclipse, and notice right away that it's deploying an ear file that it found in its own deploy directory. I can test that this application is in fact responding. If I look at the JNDI interface, I can see that certain interfaces are available. And I can address this application. I can address an URL addressable entity in a browser such as Search Form. And you remember that we have bank accounts, right? So I can search from here, and everything's working fine outside of Eclipse. So let's go back and remind ourselves what Eclipse is doing and take a look at how to manually deploy our application from inside of Eclipse. So first I'm going to terminate the JBoss server running outside of Eclipse. I don't want any port contentions or problems. I'm going to start up Eclipse and start up my workspace. And remember that the way we got this project onto our JBoss test server was by using our JBoss test server and using the feature add remove. If I remove this project from my JBoss test server, remember that ear project is there. If I start JBoss from inside of Eclipse and I go back and I look at that deploy directory, sure enough, my application is not deployed. So Eclipse has been hiding an awful lot of complexity for deployment from us, making it very easy to make changes to our application and automatically have them deployed. I'll go ahead and stop the server. I'm convinced that my application is not deployed. What I want to demonstrate here is how to take my EJB application, which is packaged inside of an ear application. If I expand my ear project and I look at modules, if I look at bundled libraries, these are the dependent classes, these are the jar classes. Notice my EJB project is bundled as a jar file. So whatever I've done in my EJB project, it's going to be deployed as an EJB jar file with all of the configuration elements that I've been putting into my web client as well as my EJB client. To deploy this manually, let's say outside of JBoss, let's say I'm going to install it on another application server. Let's say I'm going to deploy it from a test environment to a production environment. Inside of Eclipse, individual pieces or the entire ear file can be exported by right-clicking and choose Export. Can you see where I'm going with this? I choose Ear File. I choose the project that I actually want to export, and I browse to a specific location. So I've been using lab files here for some of the source that we've copied and pasted in. I can put it there. save. I have various settings in the export wizard. Optimize it for a specific server runtime. Export the source files. Overwrite existing files. I don't need to do that. I can click Finish. And if I were to go out and look at Windows Explorer and look at lab files, I should see that my EJB project is deployed here, or is exported here. Sorry. I can take this EAR file and deploy it to any Java EE application server. So that gives us an idea of how to deploy an application, how Eclipse has been automatically deploying applications, and how we can manually export our application and all of the underlying configuration to a separate EAR file outside of our test environment, and that EAR file is ready to deploy.